Hi and welcome to my channel. This little tutorial is about how to render realistic looking hair, or at least how to come close to real looking hair. For the technique I am showing you, I'm using Procreate and out-of-the-box brushes without any modifications. So no need to worry about fiddling with your settings before we start. I'm actually in the middle of the process to produce a render of Harley Quinn, and since I was doing the hair anyway, I thought I might share my technique of how to render the hair. There are thousands of different ways how to render hair. This is just my way of doing it. So you might change things, add or skip certain steps as you like. What are you going to see is just a suggestion how it could be done. A note before we begin: this technique of rendering hair might be very time consuming, so what you need is patience. But since most of us enjoy the process of painting and drawing anyway, I don't think this might be an issue. However, it takes a while. Before we begin with the tutorial how to render the hair, I will show you the process video of how I did it, so you can have an overview about the whole thing. So, let's go through every single step. As you can see, I've rendered the head already. It's not done yet, but that's sufficient for what we are going to do. I have the head on one layer, and I'm going to create another layer on top of it. What we need to do before painting the hair is creating something like a base. Since our skull is covered with skin and the hair casts shadows on the skin, we are going to create the same thing here. On this layer, I'm using the soft airbrush with about 60 or 70% opacity, and I create this surface of skin. Some areas are darker and others are lighter. That depends on where the light is coming from and how the hair flows and falls. We don't need to pay particular attention to this step because most of it will be covered with hair anyway. But it is good to begin with this step, especially when your background is very bright like here and you want to render blonde or gray hair. It's just easier to see that way, but it also makes the whole thing look more realistic in the end. So, after we are done with creating the skin, I open another layer on top of it. To paint the hair, I open my brush menu, go to the inking section, and select the technical pen. The size I choose for the brush is very small, maybe around 10% or a bit more. The opacity is at about 40 to 50%. But you can change the settings to your personal preferences, but I recommend you don't go with the biggest size of the brush or 100% opacity, since hair usually appears soft, and with the opacity turned on full, it would look more like straw than hair. In order to create realistic looking hair, we need to render a lot of hair. Yes, hair by hair by hair by hair. But don't worry, we won't render each single hair from top to bottom, because it's very unusual that we can see every single hair in its full length at all the time. What we do instead is creating bundles of hairs, because hair might be curly or untidy or simply styled in a certain way. So hair is being covered with other hair. If you look at Harley, there are many areas where some strands of hair disappear or dive underneath other strands of hair. To create the illusion of strands of hair, we have to move the pen quickly. Find the place you want to use the center and flick your pen up and down. This will later create the effect that the hair smoothly disappear underneath other strands of hair. Up and up and up, down and down and down. Next, we want to make sure that everything looks smooth and silky. Therefore, I go into the smudge menu, go to touch-ups, and use the brush short hair. Let me point out that we use this brush for smudging only. We won't render the hair with this brush. I keep the size of this brush fairly small, between 30 and 40%, and the opacity is at about 50%. Now I brush the hair texture with this tool. It's like brushing your hair, up and down. Maybe once or twice, that should be enough. If I do it too often, it will look too blurred. And don't forget to move your smudging tool in the same direction as the hair flows. If you go across, the effect will be destroyed. Now you want to know how to create lots and lots of hair without making a blurry, washed out mess. To prevent this from happening, we create another layer on top of the previous one and repeat the whole process. Take your technical pen brush, create strands of hair by following the direction the hair falls. Don't draw the hair too slowly though. If you do that, it will look like a spider's leg. Flick the pen instead from your wrist. Turn the canvas if needed to be in a comfortable position. Use your short hair smudging tool and brush your hair once or twice. Go into your layers menu and merge those two layers together. Then create a new layer on top of it and repeat the whole process. By doing this, the layers underneath won't be affected by the smudging you are doing on the hair. Change the hue and the value and do it again. As I said, this process is very time consuming, but it is also a lot of fun to do. What to do if you forgot to lay in darker areas? That's not a problem. Create a new layer, lay in your shadows, smudge them, merge them together, create a new layer on top of it, and lay some brighter areas across. For Harley's hair, I needed around 20 layers, but if you think you can do it with less, or if you think you need more layers, that's not a problem. Don't forget to merge them together though, to always have enough layers left. For the highlights, I do the same thing. Finally, I create another layer and render some hair that go astray to make the whole look appear more natural. Hair curves not only in 2 dimensions, it can also curve toward us or away from us. To create that effect, I highlight the center of the curve a bit to create the illusion the light catches in that area. I run the areas darker to create the effect the hair is curving away from us. And we're done. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to paint hair. If you have questions or suggestions, please drop a few words in the comments section. If you like to watch more tutorial videos like this, subscribe to my channel and make sure you watch my other videos as well. I'm Chris from SpeedDrawFactory and see you in the next video.